Hello, my friend. Stay a while and listen.
What's going on, guys? It's Filthy and I'm back with another video. So today we're looking at a speed farm for the new wizard set. This is quite flexible. It will do bounties, it'll do GR speeds up to about 75-80 I'd probably say, and then we're also going to do key farming pretty quick. So versatile build, quite like it. There's plenty of things you can swap around. Now we are going to make use of the season theme here and take a couple of weapons in the cube, but for non-season it's fairly easy. You can sub one item in and then you can play it completely off season as well, so it's a build that should stay forward. And we're not actually going to take any of the channeling items. The Etch Sigil and Death Wish are both actually bugged on PTR, so they're actually doing extra damage for the Hydras. We don't need them. The Hydras will hit plenty hard enough to do GR 75 and T16 range, so they're a bit of a wasted time anyway. So this makes use of some items we probably don't use very often, so it is quite nice. Now shout out to Mnemonic, he's come up with a very similar build. I've got a few pieces differently. I'll link his video in the description, so go check him out. He's a good content creator, so go show him some love, and if you want to listen to his explanation, by all means you can do. But other than that, let's get into it. Now looking at the set, the 2-piece gives us double Hydra duration. Doesn't matter, we can cast them so often that it's pretty meaningless, but we do get an extra 2 heads per Hydra, so we can get 5 heads on a multi-headed Hydra. Now because of the Serpent Sparker, we get 2 Hydras, and they also deal increased damage. So we can have up to 10 heads, that's quite handy. 4-piece gives us damage reduction on that basis, so 8% per Hydra head. 10 heads is 80% damage reduction. That's obviously pretty nice, but we're going to be taking Boon of the Hoarder and Gold Wrap, so we're going to be immortal, so the damage reduction doesn't really matter too much. I would say on PTR it is still bugged, so I've got a shield from Galvanizing Ward. That should block all damage because of the high level of armor from Boon of the Hoarder and Gold Wrap, but at the moment it's not working. So when we do a rift, you'll see the Hydra heads will drop, but when you get to live that bug should be fixed, and therefore they won't drop, because if you've got a shield with the Gold Wrap, with the Boon of the Hoarder, you just won't literally take any damage, and that's handy because you were going to be taking squirts for a double damage modifier. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. 6-piece Hydras are going to deal 1000% increased damage for each Hydra head alive, so 10,000% damage because we have 10 heads. Again, in the footage, mine will drop, but yours won't. You will still have this 10,000% multiplier at all times, so pretty nice. Now the Magistrate Helm is also giving us extra damage on the Hydras, so up to 600%. They also cast Frost Nova. That's quite handy because we are going to take Frost Nova on the bar, and this is just simply to eke out a bit more damage. So when an enemy gets frozen by Frost Nova or chilled by it, it's an extra 33% damage. So the Hydras will basically go off, cast Frost Nova, and then anything that does get frozen will take this extra damage effect, so pretty nice. Offhand, we're taking the Winter Flurry. This is basically just to try and proc some extra Frost Novas, because we get up to 20% chance an enemy killed will release a Frost Nova. Obviously if that hits something, then it's another 33% damage, plus this also rolls with cold percent damage on it, so we're taking cold skills for the Hydra, so we might as well get the extra damage. And plus, to be honest, there's nothing really better you can take in your offhand slot, so not mega essential. Mine's obviously non-ancient, but there really isn't too much better that I can think to take here. Weapon wise in the cube, we're going to go for Echoing Fury. This will give us a pretty big attack speed buff, so it stacks up to 75%, so at 5 kills it goes up to 75%. We also get 25% move speed, which is handy. Does drop off after a few seconds, but you should keep it up pretty much most of the rift. And then the other weapon in the cube is going to be the Aether Walker. This will give us teleport. It removes the cooldown, but it costs arcane power. We've got enough resource that it's not too much of a problem, and there are ways of getting extra resource if you want it, but this is just something to play around with. Decide whether you want to put more into resource cost reduction or not. Maybe for bounties that's probably a bit more important because you do get those long stretches without seeing things, but again we'll talk about that when we look at the gear and skills and that sort of stuff. So rounding us out, we're going to take an Avarice Band, obviously to increase our pickup radius when we get gold, just to help with the Boon of the Hoarder and the Gold Wrap in general. Those 2 items will make us immortal because Boon of the Hoarder, when we kill enemies they drop gold. Gold gives us armor from the Gold Wrap, and then because of this shield we will block pretty much all incoming damage. Obviously we've got to take a rogue on the character because it's not going in the cube, and that is because we are squeezing in a Flavour of Time. I just love this item. Double pylons for speed farming is really handy. Maybe not so handy for bounties, but again, you can keep it, you can swap it out for something if you want, but it's definitely one of my favourite items in the game, and I pretty much try and work it in whenever I can. For the legendary gems, Enforcer will mean that the Hydras take less damage, and they do a bunch more damage. Bane of the Trapped will give us a flat damage increase to everything other than Juggernaut, because again, we are activating Frost Novas and things like that. And then obviously Boon of the Hoarder to get the gold. For gems in the gear, I've gone for Topaz for more damage, obviously in pants and chest. And then in the helm at the moment, I've got a Topaz for resource cost reduction, but the ideal I think would be to get resource cost reduction on shoulders and also on gloves, and then and also weapon probably, and then I'd look to put a emerald in here to get extra gold, which obviously would be handy for empowering rifts. In terms of stat rolls, you can get Hydra damage on your shoulders and also chest piece, as well as your offhand. So in theory, if you got all three of those, that would be a 45% multiplier. And you can get cold on braces, amulets and offhands, that's another 60% modifier. Now another potential item for consideration for the cube or the character would be the Frostburns, giving you another 20% cold damage, but as you've already got 3 stacks of cold damage, I don't see that it adds too much. And the freeze is nice, but I don't think it actually activates the Frost Nova, because you're not using Frost Nova to freeze things, so I personally don't think it's worth it, but it's something that you can consider if you want. So the build revolves around Hydra, Frost Hydra, so you just click these out and they'll do an absolute stack of damage, and you just click them wherever you want them to go. Frost Nova Bone Chill, this gives us that 33% extra damage once things get frozen by Frost Nova or chilled by it, so quite handy. Storm Armor Scramble, I've gone for this just for the move speed, so 25% move speed for 3 seconds whenever we get hit. We don't have to take damage, we just have to be hit, so again, it does still work with Gold Wrap and the shield. Then the Familiar, I've gone for the Spark Flint, this gives us an extra 10% damage, may as well get the extra damage, it seems like a good choice to me. Teleport, I've gone for Wormhole because when you teleport, you're going to basically be able to do it instantaneously without the little kind of cooldown effect, and then the second teleport doesn't actually cost any resource, so again I think that's a pretty good rune to take for that. And then Magic Weapon, Force Weapon, again another 20% modifier on the damage, so really just basically stacking move speed, utility and damage where we can. Following that through in the passives, Glass Cannon, extra 15% damage, decrease armor and resistances, doesn't matter, we're immortal with Gold Wrap. Audacity, I tend to find that I'm up close and personal with these Hydras because I just love jumping into the middle of stuff, so 30% extra damage makes sense. This is very unstable enemy, is very important at the moment because the Hydras drop off, so this is like a cheat death. Less important once the bug is fixed, but still I'd probably take it anyway. Then Galvanizing Ward will give us the shield, that will keep up our squirts, which again gives us another double damage modifier. So again, for bounties you might want to swap out Glass Cannon just in case any bosses want to squish you, so you could, let's say, go for Dominance to buff up your shields, but lots of these passives are pretty good. You could go for Power Hungry and then look to try and avoid damage from the boss and stand further away, so again that's another choice that you could go for. If you are struggling for Arcane Power, you can take Astral Presence as well, so that's another one. Now, in terms of Arcane Power, generally, if you are struggling, you can swap Storm Armor Rune over to Power of the Storm. So this will give you a 3 Arcane reduction on all skills. And then for the Familiar, you could also go for Arcanos, and that would generate your extra Arcane Power. As I say, I find that it's absolutely fine the way that it is at the moment, but there's some swaps that you can do. So if you want to adapt the build to GRs, obviously Gold Wrap comes out, and I'd put the Witching Hour in for extra damage. I'd put the Hail of Carini in for toughness, Bane of the Powerful coming in for the Boon of the Hoarder. Now the rest of it's pretty debatable. I've gone for COE and for Flavour of Time because I just like those, but by all means the Roar could go on the character and the Aether Walker could go back in, but I find that I don't teleport that much and the Wormhole Rune is fine. But as I say, that's kind of how I'm playing at the moment, but you can blend those two things together. Now the build can be played off season quite effectively. You're just going to have to choose either to dump the Echoing Fury with the attack speed and move speed, or the Aether Walker. Now whichever one you take out, I probably would either add in Frostburns for the bit of cold damage, or possibly even Tasker and Theo. So if you take out the Echoing Fury, I'd go for Tasker and Theo just to get the attack speed, and if you're going to take out the Aether Walker, then possibly the Frostburns. But obviously you can try those things out off season and see how you get on. That's it guys, I hope you like the build. Again, it's a bit different for the wizard, so it's nice to have a key farming option that is a little bit unusual. Let me know what you think, love to hear your feedback. So take it easy guys, I'll see you soon for some more PTR content. Peace.
This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Evolution. This is the future. Human error. Evolution.